Coming up, we're going to be talking more about Keir Starmer accusing Nigel Farage of being a snake oil merchant who does not like or believe in Britain. An extraordinary thing to say in his keynote speech at Labour Party conference yesterday. He launched a series of scathing attacks on the Reform UK leader, accusing him of pursuing the politics of grievance with racist policies. All backed up, by the way, by David Lammy, then claiming that he had flirted with Hitler Youth at some point in his life. He then backtracked and said, oh, well, he's denied it, and I accept that he's denied it. Yeah, bit worried about the libel lawyers getting involved, were you, David Lammy? Nigel Farage later hit back at Keir Starmer, saying he wasn't fit to be Prime Minister. He'd incited violence against Reform UK MPs and himself, and accused him by accusing him of racism. And he warned that Keir Starmer's comments will incite and encourage the radical left. He claimed the PM has descended into the gutter. I mean, who can disagree with that? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. Today, by the way, 1st of October. When did that happen, by the way? The year is racing past. But today is a day of an anti-immigration protest dubbed the Pink Protest. It's currently taking place in Westminster. The group, which stems from the anti-migrant Hotel Pink Ladies movement in Epping. They are protesting today in response to growing public anger over migrant hotels in local communities. I'll be speaking to one of the organisers a little bit later in this hour. But again, I'm sure Keir Starmer thinks they're all racist. What with being concerned about illegal migration and particularly crime committed by illegal migrants in this country must make them racist, mustn't it? That does seem to be what he thinks. It's just extraordinary. Well, we'll talk about this right now with Caire Pearsall. He's a former Conservative government advisor. And Claire, you and I were discussing earlier just the idea that it's a great success for this Labour Prime Minister, not even 15 months in. I mean, later this week, 15 months into his premiership with a massive majority, landslide victory and all of that. And here he is talking about another party and another party leader the whole way through.
But that's all he's spent his 15 months doing, is pointing the finger at other parties and how awful they are and how awful the public is, without actually doing any of the job himself. So if you're the Prime Minister, your party's in there with a massive mandate. Where are your policies? What are you doing? How are you making life better for us?
GB Energy.
Don't hear any of that.
GB Energy. They keep telling me, I don't know what it does. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't produce any energy. I don't know. And that is one of the things they go, GB Energy. We had someone on yesterday saying, I'm building 1.5 million new homes. Okay,
where?
There aren't going to be one. Okay, that's the target at the end of the year and end of the Parliament. They're already way behind schedule. They're not going to... No government has hit its target in the last 20 years. They're not going to hit that target. But claiming that having a target of building 1.5 million new homes, even allowing for the planning changes they're making, even allowing for that's an achievement. I mean, these people, I'm saying this, they're a Tuesday night book club. They are so shocked by actually having to do anything. None of these people have ever started a business.
No.
I am genuinely, I'm always in awe of people who can start a business, make it grow, employ people, build out. I'm genuinely in awe of it, because it is such incredible skill, and you have to back yourself, and you have to, you have to deliver. And so many of us don't do, we don't have to do that in our jobs. And certainly this lot, most of them, I'm pretty much all of them, public sector, unions, and nothing wrong. Trade unions have done wonderful things for workers over the years, but they just haven't been accountable to anybody. And now they're accountable to the voters, and they don't like it. But what do you make of Keir Starmer? I mean, look, let's just play a couple of clips, because I think it is important just to hear the words. And as you know, I'm not a big fan of long clips, so I always have a rule about how long they can be. We've kept them all under 40 seconds so we don't all doze off. But actually, you wouldn't have dozed off during this section of Keir Starmer's speech, almost an hour long in total. But this is what he had to say about Nigel Farage.
We can all see these snake oil merchants on the right, on the left, but be in no doubt, conference, none of them have any interest in national renewal, because decline is good for their business. When was the last time that you heard Nigel Farage say anything positive about Britain's future? He can't. He doesn't like Britain, doesn't believe in Britain, wants you to doubt it just as much as he does.
Shall we also hear a little bit of what David Lammy had to say, and his sort of apology for what he also had to say about Nigel Farage?
I will leave it for the public to come to their own judgments about someone who once flirted with Hitler Youth when he was younger. That is for the public. He has denied it, and so I accept that he has denied it, and I would like to clarify that position because in the end the Prime Minister was keen for us to focus on the policies, not the individual.
It's the Deputy Prime Minister of this country. Just let that sink in. The Deputy Prime Minister of this country represents us on the world stage. He went fishing with the, without a licence, obviously, with the Vice President of the United States. I mean, it's an absolute embarrassment. No wonder Nigel Farage issued a very lengthy, 7-minute statement responding to the attacks that were made to him. But this is a small part of it. And this is what Nigel Farage had to say.
I'm sorry to say, I now believe that he is unfit to be the Prime Minister of our country. The Prime Minister has decided to descend into the gutter and all of his cabinet with him. Labour says these policies are racist and immoral, and by implication, Reform supporters, Reform voters, Reform sympathisers are racist too. This language will incite and encourage the radical left. It directly threatens the safety of our elected officials and our campaigners. And frankly, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, I think this is an absolute disgrace.
And I agree with Nigel. I really do. Caire Pearsall, now there are two big issues there. One is, three really. One is, why are you spending your time talking about another party and their policies and not your own if you're leading the Prime Minister? That's not leading, that's following. Two, saying that policies are racist, but no, not the leader. Well, he's saying that. I think David Lammy went further, and not the voters. Can you really separate those two things, and do you think that's how most voters will see it? But also, then you've got the issue of basically inciting violence, not directly, of course, he's not done anything illegal, but basically saying this is an awful human being. Well, when twisted people can justify then violence against someone because they're a bad person, just in the wake of Charlie Kirk. We've had 2 MPs murdered in the last 10 years, and numerous threats. I mean, numerous people are behind bars now for threats they've made to elected politicians and campaigners. Nigel Farage himself has to have security. His security has just been downgraded by 75%. On what planet that's happened? That's just immoral. That's happened. But those are 3 completely separate issues there with that speech. Do you want to take those to task?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Keir Starmer said, it was the people on the right and people on the left. So what? So this is everybody he's now tarring with a brush. So everybody that's on the left, on the right, who basically doesn't think like he does, then they're wrong. They're bad people. They're extreme. So
you can't just say I disagree with them and I want to explain to you why I think they're wrong and why my policies were. That's fair.
Absolutely.
That's political debate.
I'd much rather have that. I'd much rather have a conversation with somebody that I didn't agree with, but it was on the line, a sensible conversation that you could understand where they were coming from. You don't agree with it, it doesn't matter, but you can have a grown-up debate.
But the I don't agree with your policies, you must be racist and a bad person. That's very different.
And this is going to cause some real hag with people like Nigel Farage without security being around.
Do you think the average voter who either is saying they're going to vote reform or considering voting reform, do you think they'll go, oh well, no, fair point, Prime Minister? I think I would be surprised if reform didn't get a 2 or 3 point jump in the polls as a result of this.
I suspect that they will, because it's going to push more people to say, how dare you think that I'm wrong, I'm racist, I'm far right, whatever it may be. They're just going to double down and say, no, I was right to vote for Nigel Farage or whoever they voted for and not the Labour Party, and it's just going to cement their position. So if you were looking for floating voters, you've now pushed them even further away from you.
And floating voters is where these things are decided. And in terms of the violence, Sir Yusuf, the former party chairman, head of policy, it's difficult to keep up with the job movement in reform sometimes, with all due respect to you, Mr Yusuf, saying, Parliament has decided in their infinite wisdom that they should cut his security by 75%. And Nigel Farage, I remember, so I think Aaron Banks was paying for his security for a long time. This is a man who basically, he can't go to a restaurant without people checking there. There are places he prefers to go because he knows there are 2 exits. No one else has to think like this. I know a number of people who are not public about the security they've had to have as a result of public comments they've made that are not remotely inciting violence themselves, but just opinions which will either incite, like, Islamist lunatics or the Antifa far left. And it is outrageous that any democratic politician, elected or unelected in this country, should ever face this sort of thing. But also, crucially, think about Nigel Farage is he's unfailingly polite.
Yeah,
he really, he's a complete gentleman. He really is.
Yeah.
I will take him to task on, I don't agree with your policy on Ukraine or this. Or, I will, me, I take people, I don't care whether I agree with this or that view, I will take people to task on things. But he is, and like Richard Tice, unfailingly, he's the politest, most gentlemanly people you will ever meet.
And I would much rather deal with people like that in politics, because you can have a proper discussion with them. And fundamentally, I disagree with some of the things that Nigel Farage says, but he has always given me airtime. He has always given me the space to have those discussions with him in a robust manner. But afterwards, you shake hands, thank you very much.
And it was interesting that he was saying that about the Prime Minister. This is a man he could have a chat to. And that's the thing people often don't realise, even though people could be barking each other across the floor in the House of Commons, and then they'll have a chat on the way out. Yeah. But in the same way, I can have a massive big debate and completely disagree with someone on air. It's not an act on their part or an act on my part. We completely disagree about that. But I don't feel the need to hate them or to abuse them, either to their face or afterwards. And there are some people I think are idiots, and I'll say I think that person's an idiot, but I don't think someone's an idiot because they disagree with me.
But you're also not going to go and stir up hatred towards that person unnecessarily. Why would you?
But also, crucially, words like racist, there is an argument where calling someone far-right racist, I used to threaten to sue people on social media, and people back down really bloody quickly once you call the lawyer. I actually messaged one guy, said, just want to clarify, do you own your own house? And he said, what? I said, no, I just need to know you own your own house so you can pay my legal fees, because you're going to pay my legal fees. He goes, oh, you can't prove you're not racist. I'm like, well, I hate to tell you, the law is that you have to prove that I am. And I can absolutely assure you, you're going to find that absolutely impossible to do, because I don't say or do racist things, either in my public or my private life. You could have my phone. I have never, because I don't have those feelings. That wasn't how I was raised. My parents would disown me if I ever had those views. I also think, I remember, it's like, you're racist. I remember sitting there thinking, I'm really pretty sure that my first love of my life, who was an 18-month-long relationship, who happened to be a black guy, I think he might have thought it was weird that I dated him. I'm pretty sure that the black family I au paired for, looking after their 3-year-old, would have thought it was a bit weird. Again, doesn't prove I'm not racist. I just thought it was a weird thing for a racist to have done, But then, oh no, you're an Islamophobe. Yeah, okay. They just go, these people get away with blue murder, frankly, by saying these things. But the thing is, people have been throwing out racist, fascist, far right, people like Nigel Farage, people like me, for so long. Those words just, they used to hurt. How could anyone? That's horrible. Now it's just like, you're kind of like Wonder Woman. The basically, the shots are coming at you, and you just got your arms up with and it doesn't hurt anymore, because they've taken away the meaning of those words, which I think is an abomination, because those words should hurt, because they're appalling. Frankly, other than a paedophile, calling someone a racist is pretty much the next worst thing you can call someone. But no one thinks it means anything anymore. It just means people are sane and have got eyes, and they can see that the country has changed. But the only people who've mentioned race this week, Labour.
Yes, and they seem obsessed by it. And Nigel Farage seems to live rent-free in Keir Starmer's head at the moment. But to tar everybody with the same brush is never a good thing. If you're looking forward to a set of elections next year where you hope to do well, don't call people extreme, racist or wrong. I always think that just stick to those
people aren't keen on
right.
that. Just so you know, Net Zero Secretary, basically Energy Poverty Secretary, Ed Miliband, that's his correct job title. He's been speaking at Labour Party conference just now.
Has he?
Hey, look on the bright side. However bad your day's going, you're not listening to Ed Miliband in Labour Party conference. I'm just saying, look on the bright side every day of the week. He's called Reform UK ideological extremists. Hello, Mr. Pot. Meet Mr. Kettle. This is a zealot. He said Elon Musk should get the hell out of our politics. Here we go. Elon Musk, he says he incites violence on our streets. He didn't incite violence on our streets when he spoke at that conference recently. He calls for the overthrow of our elected government. He's an enabler of disinformation through X. Disinformation, Ed Miliband.
Okay.
He thinks he can tell us how to run Britain. Now, I have to say, I don't really like Elon Musk telling us how we can run our country. Conference, I have a message for Elon Musk. Get the hell out of our politics in our country. I tell you what, if Elon Musk had the same politics as him, he would be absolutely loving him being involved. They were quite happy when they were trying to throw people like me and others off social media, whether it was YouTube or X, because we had different opinions than them on issues like Brexit, like COVID. But, Ed Miliband, I mean, mate, he's just embarrassing. Get the hell out of our politics, Ed Miliband. That's what I say to you.
Yes.
Let's also talk about that breaking news that we had just before the top of the hour, that this PPE contractor firm linked to the Tory peer Michelle Mone, her of the bras, breached a £122 million contract that was commissioned by the Health Department during COVID. The High Court has ruled they have to pay back that sum of money. They basically said they would supply surgical gowns during the COVID pandemic. It was a consortium led by Lady Mone's husband, Doug Barrowman. She claimed she knew nothing to do with this company, apart from the fact that it was only when secret documents emerged that showed that he was actually as part of this. So she said she denied any involvement, but it was revealed that she was the source of referral. So basically, Tory peer says, that fast-track process that your lot set up, I'm going to blame her now. She was a Tory. You were a Tory advisor during that period, weren't you?
I wasn't.
Had you left
I'd
by
been
then?
sacked by that point.
Okay.
So I was all right.
Well, lucky for you. So you went, okay, I'll let you off that bit. This VIP lane. Basically, hello, you're an MP or a Tory peer. Do you know any companies? So this company's basically set up, to do this. This is PPE MedPro, sorry. And basically they've supplied these gowns that were absolutely unfit for purpose. They weren't sterile. They were no sorting use at all. We paid for them. Totally exploited, generosity and goodwill. And yes, an abject lack of basic oversight by civil servants in this period, but they're going to have to pay it back. That is at least a small victory for common sense, isn't it?
I think it is. They need to pay it back in one go and some. What I don't want to see is that it's 122 million spread over the next sort of 50 years.
I want it with interest, and I want a fine as well.
Yeah, no, they absolutely should, and they need to be named and shamed for doing it. And we need more decisions like that, because I believe that there are more companies out there who have pulled the same stunt.
But also true, I don't know if she had the whip taken away from her or not, but Michelle Mone basically saying, I had nothing to do with this. You literally referred the company that your husband had set up to do this, so and they made a whole load of money. Here's my thing: I've got no problem with people, being paid to do a job which was needed. No one's angry at nurses. You got extra shifts during COVID, for goodness' sake. But the people who went, it's a pandemic. People who had their freedoms desperately taken away. At the time, people were very scared. People, dying. People dying of non-COVID things are not getting treated. Kids left out of, unable to go to school. All of the damage that's done to our economy. The idea that there were people who went. I'm going to make some money out of this. I just think they're despicable. And I've always said this, when they announced all this money, whether it was furlough, whether it was companies getting loans and the like, David Cameron, his first thought as just a recently former Prime Minister, his first thought was, how can I make money for the new company I'm working on? Those people should have been told when they made the announcement, we're going to give out these loans, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Anybody caught fiddling, anyone who's done this, honestly, because we want to get the money too quickly, you will face not only paying back 3 times what you borrowed, and we'll take your house, we'll take your business. You're going to go to prison for 10 years. We will specially build prisons for those people. But we might not get you for another 10 years, but we will get you, and you will go to prison for 10 years for exploiting them. I think that message should have been made loud and clear. I know someone who works for a business where she found out by accident that her husband had been put on furlough for the entire period by the company boss, and was paid as normal, but we, the taxpayer, were paying his wages. The company operated absolutely as normal. And I mean, that's theft. The man, the boss. So, but if she goes to the authorities, right, her husband loses his job because the company will be closed down. Yeah. So what's your dilemma there? And he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't, he carried on working and was paid the same amount of money. He made no benefit whatsoever.
Yeah.
But the company boss totally and utterly stole from British taxpayers. I want that person behind bars.
Yeah, and I think there are going to be a lot of those people. The bounce back loans especially was
we're talking
abuse.
billions and billions
It was
and
just
billions.
a blank check.
They stole from taxpayers at a time
It's
when
fraud.
people would... It's immoral. It's immoral is what it is. Let me also come back to another story we were talking about just before the top of the hour. What's going on in America? Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth. Now, you've come from a military family, and your son has been, military cadet, but this is Pete Hegseth. It's quite a controversial figure. He kind of a bit Mr. Swagger, isn't he? But he's basically... He called a big meeting of all his generals and admirals and basically said, we're going to have a new look US military, no beardy weirdos, no one trans, no one all this. So he says basically, and no one fat. He's no fat generals. There's going to be a twice yearly weigh-in for staff. What do you make of that? I'm going to leave it open. What do you make of that? Because part of me is like, yeah, sort of fair enough. But part of me is like, oh, come on.
You kind of think when you're dealing with anything in the military, there is a way you turn yourself out. And my child is a prime example of this. For 5 years at his school, his hair had to be a certain length.
That's the deal.
You couldn't have it. It had to be under your beret or your cap.
And why does that matter in the military?
Because it is part of taking care of yourself. It's about having pride in your appearance. It is about being clean and tidy. If you've got long hair that's all over your face, if you were in a war situation, you can't just go, oh, bear with me a minute while I sweep my fringe out of my eyes. You have to be ready to go, and you have to have respect in yourself.
And is there an element also willingness to conform?
I think there's a little bit of that. If you're all got to, you all have to be the same, and that's the point. You are there as a team. You're not there as an individual. So no one person is better than another.
And there's an argument, certainly, if you're on the front line, being obese is probably not a good thing. If you need to fight in enemy territory or carry a... But again, the same with women. I'm not sure a 5'4" woman can carry a 6'3" bloke off the battlefield if he's injured. So it doesn't work.
If I want a commando on the front line, I want them to be physically fit and able to do their job.
Absolutely.
I don't need them to be a bit tubby. And then they can't run as fast, because that's the whole point.
But what about the generals? What about the paper pushers? Is it saying you need to lead so others can follow?
I'm a little bit more relaxed, I think, when it comes to the generals, because they have also given their service. They have got to that rank. They have done their duty.
They're not on the front line.
They're not on the front line.
What about the trans? What about the idea on trans? Again, I think there's a very strong argument that someone who, again, if you in your spare time want to wear a dress, I couldn't care less. But if someone is genuinely so deluded to believe they are born in the wrong body, I'm not sure I want them to have access to heavy weaponry. I mean that. This is something you can live your life. That's fine. But the key thing is, fundamentally, that this is something that has until very recently been treated as a mental health disorder.
Yeah,
it's dysphoria. It's believing you've got one too many legs is body dysmorphia. So is extreme anorexia or bulimia. Yeah. But so is believing you're born in the wrong body. This is not true, because you are. If you think that you shouldn't have a penis and you're a man, then you've got a mental health problem. Now, I'm not, again, people go, oh, that's outrageous to talk about it like it. No, but that's what it is.
You also wonder why they want to go into the military, which is not aggressive, I don't think that's the right word, but it is a conformist place. It is an orderly place.
If that's not you, then maybe...
Why are you going in there as, as he said, dudes in dresses? Why would you want to do that in a place that wears khaki? That's it.
I don't know, maybe khaki's your colour. I don't know. 11:26 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. I want to hear from you. Lots of calls on the board. Keep them coming.